Welcome to the DFS Build NBA edition. I'm Kevin Roberts, going solo here for a 2-game slate. Hopefully I can help you win some money tonight at DraftKings. It's still tiny little 2-game slates until the actual playoffs get going. We are in the play-in tournament finale here with the Bulls and Heat facing off and the Kings and Pels facing off. So that will finalize our 1 through 8 for the Eastern Western Conference. So pretty big games here. And hey, it's what we got. So it's this or MLB. So let's dive into it. First off, we got Bulls and Heat. The Heat are 2-point favorites at home with a 206 total. Mildly surprising that they're favored just because Jimmy Butler and Terry Rozier are both out for this game. But even with that being the case, they are still at home. They're still probably the better team. They're certainly the better coached team. And they still do have two really good players in Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero leading the charge. So I'm okay with that logic. The game total is the weakest game total of the two games on the slate, but I just don't think we should worry about stacking or, game flow that much on a slate like this. Just play the best plays. So starting on the Chicago side, DeMar DeRozan looks good. He's coming in with a 43-point fantasy projection, 20% boom rating at DFS Hero, which, by the way, I forgot. If you are in search for a lineup optimizer or want a little bit of extra help creating your lineups and looking at ownership and projections and just seeing who looks the best, who's in the best spot, DFS Hero is a really good tool to use, and you can actually get a 15% off discount if you hit our link in the video description below. And also, if this video helps you, give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel so you can be alerted to future videos. All right, so DeMar looks good here. Vooch comes in with a 40-point fantasy projection. He also looks good. In theory, these guys are fine plays. The prices are good. I don't like playing centers against Bam Adebayo, so I'm really not super interested in Vooch. Let's kind of check real quick how he's fared against Bam on the season. I mean, the Heat rank #1 against centers, so in 4 games, Vooch averaged 36.9 fantasy points against Miami. So I don't think he would necessarily sink your lineup, and it is the playoffs. He's going to give it all he can, but it's just not a good spot. I don't like playing centers against Bam, so I'm probably going to check Vooch off my list on this tiny slate, and that's one thing I would suggest. If you're not entering a ton of lineups, if you're just going to do one single entry, you got to start eliminating guys from your player pool. If you're doing a bunch of lineups, of course, have a sprinkle in the Vooch at 7.8K. You could do worse. And his projection is decent, but he's just not a priority for me. I would definitely play DeMar DeRozan over him. By the way, Vooch is carrying 21% ownership, so if he's going to be fairly owned on a small slate in a bad spot, I will gladly go somewhere else. Kobe White is now 7.5K for his salary. This projection is not amazing. The matchup is not amazing. Pretty sure he hasn't done that great here either. Well, actually, he has 40 fantasy points per game across 4 meetings. I think because Vooch probably will struggle here, it makes a lot of sense to go to the wings. So Kobe and DeMar. My favorite play is going to be DeMar of that trio. Kobe went ham last game with 42 real points. I do not envision that happening again. I would expect him to come crashing down to earth here. So I'm probably out on Kobe. And there's just going to be other priorities for me anyways. So if you're looking at the Bulls, I'm either looking to save and get some value here. Ayo Dosunmu and Alex Caruso are both questionable. If they play at 6.1 and 5.8K, they're going to play a ton of minutes, so I would like them a lot. I would definitely play them instead of going for Vooch or Kobe White here, just because you want to get guys who are going to be on the floor a ton. And for their salaries, I just think they're more valuable by comparison to some of their teammates. Now, if they're out, you're looking at pretty decent value with Javonte Green at 5.3 and maybe even Dalen Terry at 3.9K. I'm assuming since it's such a big game, both those guys will play. But if they're out, definitely look to Javonte or even Terry as decent value plays. I don't really like the Bulls as a whole here. I would favor the Miami side for sure. I'd probably get a lot of my exposure into the other game. It just is a higher total, and there's just a lot of other good plays. But if you get to DeMar or you get to those value guys I talked about, I'm okay with that. Miami is the team in this game that I would be more focused on. I think they have the better matchup across the board. No Jimmy Butler, no Terry Rozier means a lot of usage opening up. Tyler Hero looks awesome at 7.9K. His projection is 41.6 fantasy points. I love him on this slate. Bam Adebayo is coming in a little bit under owned at 23%. That's interesting. that I think the ownership, if it sticks where it's at right now, he's coming in with a 45-point fantasy projection, 24% boom rating, has a pretty good matchup. Bulls only rank 17th against centers. If his ownership's going to be there, I love Bam. I mean, he's gonna be setting up the offense more. He's going to be scoring more. He's just going to have a lot more opportunities with Jimmy Butler not, running the offense and Rozier not taking away chucking shots on the perimeter. So both Hero and Bam are very, very, very good plays on the slate, and I want to get both of them. As far as just a value, I think Hero's the better play, but I think they both get there. I think they're both going to smash. So if I can get Bam and Hero together on the slate, I do want to do that. We do have a lot of value here with the Heat, potentially. I would mostly stick with the starters just so we don't get Spoelstra's version of popped. I mean, come on. Duncan Robinson last game, he was probable to play and Rozier was out. He played 0 minutes. Yeah, that got me. I hope it didn't get you, but it sure got me. So now he's supposed to play. But he's like bottom on this team right now in projection at DFS Hero, probably because nobody trusts what the Heat are saying right now. In theory, at 4.8K with Jimmy Butler and Terry Rozier out, Duncan Robinson is going to look really good. And I would go right back to him and take on that risk. I do need him to start. If he doesn't start, I'm not going to play that game. It would be very, very risky to play that game if he doesn't start. If he's in at 4.8, I'm going with it. I'm going to take that risk. Jaime Jaquez 5.2, Caleb Martin 5.4, both very, very good value plays with the injuries to Miami. Pick your poison. Jaquez is a little bit cheaper and projects better, but he's going to be crazy owned, 55% owned. I think he's a really, really good play. But if you don't want to soak up that ownership, you can go play Caleb Martin for a fraction of the ownership. We'll mention that Haywood Highsmith at 4.6K, he got like 28 minutes last game. He's only going to play more. Kevin Love at 4K flat, he'll play 15 to 20 minutes. So all these guys are definitely in play and need to be in your player pool. Miami across the board looks really, really good as far as getting value and getting some studs on this slate. All right, next game, we got a 1-point spread and 210.5 total with the Kings taking on the Pels. The Pels are going to be without Zion Williamson, which is substantial because we've seen historically that JV gets a considerable boost as far as usage and DK differentials. But the guys who benefit the most from Zion being out naturally as far as usage and production goes are Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum. But first, I'll get to the Kings guys. Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk remain dead. So that is going to create major value for Keon Ellis. He is coming in with 39% ownership at 5K flat, not owned enough. He's a major lock for me. He played 39 minutes in their first play-in game, and the matchup is worse. But he's just going to play basically the whole game, and he can catch fire. I don't really care what he does. He's just a smash value play for me. I really like Harry Barnes at 4.5K as well. He's mega chalk, so that is one spot where you could say, okay, if Harry Barnes, who doesn't really usually do a lot, if he's going to be crazy owned, is there another guy I can go to and pivot away from him? Let's see. For the Bulls, maybe that ends up being Dalen Terry or Javonte Green, kind of. Maybe that ends up being Duncan Robinson if people are afraid of him. Maybe that ends up being Haywood Highsmith, like I said. Maybe it could be, for the Pels, it could be Larry Nance, although he's going to be pretty chalky. Maybe it could be Jose Alvarado at 4.2. Maybe JV if he's not very owned. But yeah, I would be looking at possible pivots there. Having said that, Harrison Barnes did play 34 minutes in the first playoff or playing game, and he projects okay for his price. He's a good play. He is a good play. So I don't mind eating that chalk. But if he's going to be like 60 to 70% owned, you should entertain fading Harry Barnes and getting a good pivot in there for sure. Keegan Murray looks good again at 5.9. He went off in the first game, so he's also going to be super chalky. I think he still is a very good play. You could totally do that, but that's another situation where we could entertain getting, underweight or totally off of a guy who's probably pretty unlikely to just go bonkers 2 games in a row. The minutes are there. The price is good. The role is there. So I do like him. He is a very good play, but sometimes on these tiny slates, you just need to eat the good chalk and then think, are these guys really going to get there? And is there a way I can leverage that ownership? Trey Lyles, 3.7K is an okay punt. He's going to get like 15 to 20 minutes. And then Sabonis and Fox are going to have monster usage for the Kings. They're going to play basically the whole game. De'Aaron Fox has not fared well in this matchup. In 5 games on the year, he has averaged 32 fantasy points per game against the Pels. The Pels have been a pretty good defensive team. So I don't know if you want to just fade Fox because of past results. He has a good price at 8.8. His projection is pushing for 50 fantasy points, but that's not nothing. The Pels have been a good defensive team. So if he's struggled that badly in this matchup, and there's other, guys with that price range like Bam, like I would rather play Bam for sure over De'Aaron Fox. So I don't know how much I feel like I need to get to Fox here. I'd rather use some of the other Kings guys than probably Sabonis. I mean, Sabonis is coming in with the best projection in the slate. So if you want to go Sabonis, Bam, occupying your center and utility spot, and then figure out the rest from there, I'm game for that. That's probably going to be my strategy right now. Doesn't mean you can't play Fox, but if Fox is going to be way more owned than Bam, give me Bam all day. That probably does it for the Kings here. On to the Pels we go. Obviously, Zion being out opens up a ton of usage, a lot of minutes. I feel a lot better about JV at 4.9K. The only problem is if you go like Bam, Sabonis, you can't play JV. Let me see. Yeah, Larry Nance is also center only. So if you go that route, sorry, really just battling sickness for a while. Then you won't be able to play those guys. They are good value guys, little good salary savers. They're going to need the size to go up against Sabonis, so they're good plays. It's just going to be tough to, feel good about completely getting off of Bam and Sabonis on this slate. So, but very much in play if you end up going Sabonis and want to use one of them as a value, or Bam and you fade Sabonis. But the play of the day here for the Pels for me is going to be CJ McCollum. He has absolutely crushed in this matchup. In 3 games against them, he's averaging 48 fantasy points per game. He gets monster usage and production spikes with Zion off the floor. He's coming in with the best projection at 41 fantasy points for the Pels. So he's awesome. He's a smash play. Brandon Ingram, in theory, is the better play at 7.7K. And he's also done very, very well. He's actually the one who's benefited the most across the board for the Pels when Zion doesn't play. The only problem is he didn't even play the 4th quarter of the last game for New Orleans, and he's struggling with a knee issue. So is he going to be benched again? Is he going to be productive? Is he going to be limited? I don't know. So you can play Brandon Ingram, but considering these guys are currently splitting the ownership there at 29%, I don't have a ton of interest in Ingram if he's going to be pretty owned and not very reliable. So I would just go away from Ingram and just, pivot to Tyler Hero and not think twice about it. Trey Murphy at 6.3K, solid price. Herbert Jones at 5.5K, probably the guy I prefer of the two. He's coming at like half the ownership, but they're both very good plays. And Jose Alvarado, like I mentioned earlier, 4.2, looks like a pretty good punt. Najee Marshall did not play in the first play-in game, but with Zion out, Najee Marshall at 3.8K is a guy I would definitely look at as an interesting play, especially since he can be had at the forward slots. Let me get a quick drink of water here. So really, that's going to do it for me. Me personally, I mean, hopefully I illustrated here the best plays. There's a lot of good plays still on even a tiny 2-game slate. But the best plays to me are Bam, Hero, CJ, and Sabonis from a top level. And then when you're looking at values, I mean, obviously the Pels guys look good. I mean, they all look good. Alvarado and Najee are punts that are risky, but they even look good. Herb, Murphy, JV, Larry Nance, all viable. For Sacramento, love Keon Ellis. Harry Barnes is fine, but consider looking to leverage that. For Miami, Highsmith and Love are in play, but a little bit more volatile. Jaquez and Martin are probably the more preferred value plays for the Heat. And then for Chicago, just keep an eye on the status of Dosunmu and Caruso. All right, that's going to do it for me. Hopefully this helps you a little bit. It is a 2-game slate. I would go light. I'm just going to do a single entry, maybe a couple iterations of that, just like make one team that I really, really feel good about, and then make a couple pivots based off of what DFS Hero pops out when I run their system a bit. But yeah, that does it for me. Give this video a like if I help you in any way, and also consider subscribing to the channel so we can keep getting videos out to you. All right, thanks for watching and good luck tonight.